Sanbanan, welcome to my page. And if you're following me from YouTube, welcome to my channel. Today's topic is one that's very close to my heart because it's an experience that I went through, an unpleasant experience, but I'm going to share the lessons as well. And basically, I was told that I was too soft to lead, and I just want to share what happened. This was in an environment that was unfriendly. Really, I was bullied, and therefore, it's an experience that, yeah, I look back. It shaped my leadership style. It shaped my experience because this was like my very first job. So let's get into it. My very first job, I think I've shared a bit of my history. I had a government job, which was temporal, just temporal contracts, about 8 contracts, which are renewed every 3 months, and basically a not secure environment. And so when I got my first permanent job, I was elated. I was excited. And, I was ready to give it all, to give it my all. And I'll just try and really summarize, and get to the point. So basically, I was offered a different position than the one that I had applied for. Unfortunately, this didn't go well with my manager, whom I was going to report to. It also didn't go well with the rest of the team that I was supposed to join. Unfortunately for me, the very same week I came, she was, if not the following week, she was leaving. No. Okay, look, it was week 1, we had induction, so I wasn't in the office. And then week 2, which was now my first week in the office, she was leaving for maternity leave. So basically, I was expecting, a quick handover. I'm enthusiastic, I'm all energetic, like I really want to impress her. I'm really going to do my best. I heard that she's going to leave for maternity leave. So I'm expecting that she's going to give me her priority list, that, okay, make sure that you do this. This is how you do this. None of it. I'm not going to get into details how it happened, but it was a very hostile, no welcome at all. And I quickly learned that I've been thrown into the fire, not even into the deep end. So unfortunately, one of the things that I needed to do, at least this one thing she left for me, I was supposed to roll out, introduce a strategic change. Unfortunately, this change was also overdue. So I got this, series of documents that I read. I tried to make sense of this information. I was supposed to call everyone, like the whole team. And I think then we had about maybe 12 to 16 people. I mean, I was 20, maybe I was 24, 25. That was my first job. And it's my first time leading anything. It's my first time, because like I quickly became, like a coordinator, which was like assistant manager. And I was supposed to introduce this new change. I tried to gather as much information I could. And literally that meeting that I was supposed to have as well was that same week, if not early on, like the following Monday. So I really had like about 3 days. I remember just having a few days to read and make sense of the information. So she said, call everybody, introduce this change. When I come back from maternity leave, I want you to really be headway, with this project. So already I could see like, okay, things are tense here, and she's not one to mess with. So I really had to try and just, get on with the program very quickly. The very first meeting that I had, I called everybody. I tried to gather, some notes about how to have meetings, how to conduct meetings. I think, guys, this is the world before internet. I think I really appreciate and envy people that have access to information. This was the days before, internet. And so you try to do as much research as you can, but there wasn't much information available. I called the meeting went south. I went into the meeting with my an open mind, thinking that we'll just figure it out. Like, I didn't know that I was walking into an area full of landmines, literally, and things that started exploding. I mean, it was like one of those meetings. I remember my voice shaking, knees shake. I was so nervous. I mean, it didn't help that I was very, very nervous. Everybody was older. And I didn't know what I was talking about. I tried to gather much information, but this was a strategic change, and I'd asked for people that were operational. So it didn't help much because everybody was now, like a few people were welcoming. And so Yeah, I this meeting now just went south. People were angry. I mean, like for me, it was my first experience. I didn't understand why I could not have anticipated why people would be angry at me, and they were intimidating. Others, they just walked out of the meeting like everyone was raising their, they are raising hands, asking questions. What are we going about? How about this? How about that? How about that? Now, all I understood was like what was written on the paper. I didn't have context. Like, like if we do this, this has implication on A, B, C, D. I didn't have that. And it was a disaster. It was a very traumatic experience. But I was glad that I had done it. If anything, I was happy is that like I was over it, and now I had something to work with. I knew who was, because another thing, like my first time to meet some of them, and they're already walking out on me. And I was a very hostile environment, let alone that when she came back on maternity leave. Okay, that whole 3 months maternity leave, I really tried my best. I worked long hours. I cleared, backlog. I did my best, and I was happy. And I was thinking that, oh, when my boss comes back, she's going to be so happy. Like, if anything, the amount of work that I've done is going to like earn me some credit, and maybe she'll just give me a chance. A lot of things happened. Unfortunately, my goodness, I was in the lake of fire. Many times I went to the toilet to cry. Many times I was in the toilet, I was just crying. She was a bully. Many times she would just shout, like she would make sure that she has an audience, and she would just humiliate me in front of people. Um, it didn't matter. Like I could do, out of 100, I could do 99. And she would just go on about the one thing that I didn't do. And the nature of work that we had, there's just no way you could get it 100%. If anything, you could have just been more empathetic, like look at the work that has been done and just like, okay, sure, we'll keep going. But unfortunately, I didn't have such kindness. So the one thing, I look back from that experience because it was very critical and life changing, traumatic, but life changing very earlier on in my career. And it really, made me to make key decisions. What I learned, well, when I look back and I reflect, I wish one thing that I know that I could have done, I wish I knew this. I would have, asked for backup. I wish I knew the nature of the meeting and the people that I was going to meet. I would have asked for backup, like I would have asked for my manager's manager to attend the meeting or at least conduct the meeting. And I would have just been sitting there and just taking notes and, just learn. I would have negotiated the deadline. I know that we would already pass the deadline, but I mean, like by spending more time later on, I realized that, it wasn't like a matter of life and death. Literally would have negotiated the deadline. And that would have given me a bit of time to understand the context. But sometimes, you're thrown into the deep end and, depends on deep end, you just have to swim. The other thing that, when I reflect and I look back earlier on, it really taught me to forgive. I really had to do a lot of forgiveness because, I worked with that team for 6 more years. I think it's a total of 7 years, I think. Or is it, sorry, total of 6 years, I think, to be on the safe side. But by the time I left the organization, we were friends. And the first step for me to really build meaningful relationships with everybody was just forgiving. They say had people had people. It was later on that I got to understand, where this friction and where this tension was coming from, where this hostility was coming from. It was just it was the nature of the management style that they had been exposed to, and therefore, they are literally just ready to ambush anyone that was in their way, basically. So being forgiving and just, being open to build relationships, because I realized early on, really, really earlier on, that I could not do this work alone. And I needed to build a team that was going to perform and perform highly. And I was able to leverage on everybody's strength and make sure that we perform, we become the high performing team. throughout the years. And that happened because I had to sit down and be patient, get to understand each person, and then coach. That's one thing I'm a believer, a firm believer on, of just coach people. If you give people feedback, hold them accountable, coach them, they will perform. And it also helped me to, I decided then that I was never going to be that manager. When I was promoted later on to become a manager, a lot of people were like, yeah, she's too weak, she's too kind, you're not going to make it. And I just resolved. I was young, I had not done it before. I resolved that I was not going to change who I am. I resolved that the environment was not going to change who I am. I'm going to lead authentically. I was going to respect people because I knew how painful it was to be on the receiving end of just being shouted on, of being disrespected, of being humiliated in front of people. And I just decided to be the leader that's going to lead with empathy. I mean, it doesn't mean that it was easy. Yeah, a lot of people, many times people take advantage of your kindness. I also had to learn that and learn how to manage that. A lot of times people, but again, I mean, they responded very well. I mean, that also helped me to learn very early to have difficult conversations. I mean, I look back and I'm grateful that early on in my career, I had to learn this one thing, having difficult conversations, because that made my whole career very easy. Difficult conversations are very difficult, but when you're courageous, knees shaking, I will always say knees shaking, voice shaking, have that conversation, hold that meeting, and just be courageous, So I decided earlier on that I was going to, not change who I am, just lead with kindness, respect everybody, listen, sit, respect people, listen, and help them. Believe me, it takes a lot, because it's easier to bully people around. It's easier to just start shouting and, issue out memos or letters before you even have a conversation. That's the easy part. The difficult part is to coach somebody, that doesn't perform well and coach them to performance. But, I've enjoyed deep relationships with my team. Why? Because through kindness, through me just being me, but making sure that I hold people accountable. That's the one thing that I would always do, because I mean, being kind doesn't mean that you should not do your job. Definitely, I will call you. We were going to have a meeting about that. I will set your deliverables very clearly, that this is what is expected of you. And I will have review, we will review that periodically, and you just have to deliver. And if you don't deliver, I start putting, it's going to be conversations. Then we start the writing of the letters, and then you start the PIPs. And then if we have to get to a disciplinary hearing, we're going to get to disciplinary hearing, so that's one thing I've learned, and it's not easy. But, this experience of just being thrown into a lake of fire and being in a hostile environment just really shaped me earlier on to become a better leader, to always, I mean, I'm not perfect. I haven't been perfect. I'm human. But every time, each time I made a mistake, each time I didn't treat anyone kindly, I would have the conversation and say, hey, I'm sorry. This is what happened. And I apologize, So also that's just part of leadership. Be willing to build relationships, respect people, and apologize. And if you don't know, that's the other thing that I learned earlier. You don't have to know everything. If you don't know, just say, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'm going to get the information for you, So yeah, do share with me if you've been in a similar position at work. What did you learn? How did you handle it? Looking forward to get those comments if ever you've been in such a position as me. Thank you.